Hey, hey, everybody. It's Shena Verrett with Who's Who and What's What. And we have a very exciting show for you today. I'm excited because I have two wonderful musicians here that you must hear. If you haven't heard before, then you're going to be hearing them today. I am going to introduce you a little bit, but I'm going to show a couple of video clips because you've got to see how fantastic they are before you start throwing in your questions and jumping onto their website. I have international musician and wonderful singer-songwriter Masa Uko and Waberry Jordan out of California by way of Connecticut. And she is a fantastic songstress. And we're going to start off with a video clip of Waberry Jordan.
I'm so lucky I could cry.
All right, and that is my partner, my tour partner, my girl, jazz songstress, Waberry Jordan. And we are also here with Masa Uko, who's an international musician, and I want you to check out this video, one of my favorite songs.
Share the love, you say, man. Sing along to the song, sing it proud and strong. We grow from seed to tree. Me and my people build it. Me and Zimbabwe. Me and my people build it. Me and Libya. One more time. We grow from seed to tree. Me and my people build it. Me and Somalia. Me and my people build it. Me and Kenya. Take me to the bridge. Let me hear you sing. Everybody sing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Masa Uko and Waberry Jordan. Hello, folks. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me. Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Me too. Thank you.
Yes. Well, they just had the opportunity. You had the opportunity to hear Masa Uko just sang one of my favorite songs that we grow from seed to tree. That's just such a beautiful community building song, that Seed to Tree, and we got some more stuff to hear from you a little bit later, and then they also heard "Girl versus Doubt" from Waberry Jordan, one of the hits, you know.
Hi, Shena Verrett.
I'm telling you, so we will talk about that. First, Masa Uko, you're in Costa Rica, making some music,
Yes.
huh? Tell me. I know you're everywhere, and what people don't know is, I mean, both of you, I've known you for a very long time. Masa Uko at the very beginning of my creative process in life, who actually is very instrumental in any of the songwriting I do. Let's tell us a little bit about your songwriting and its appeal to the masses.
Well, I think my songwriting process comes out of, and I think Waberry can relate to this. I come out of the Los Angeles Park community because I was born in exile in LA. And I really came through the world stage community. And the world stage poetry workshop was a very important place in my development. The way we were taught it was that words had power, and that you in many ways you could manifest your reality through your words. So
Right.
adding singing to that just amplifies the message and the spirituality behind it. So I'm a person who, more than anything, is trying to create the world that I'd like to exist, the self that I would like to exist through the use of song and craft.
Yes.
Sometimes that means that, sometimes that has a great appeal to lots of people. Sometimes it's just me trying to save my soul.
Lovely, lovely.
Right.
I know when I was writing and just kind of coming up, and we were doing some poetry, this is back in Brooklyn, the word, what you told me has resonated through my life, seriously. But we would write, and I would give to Masuko to look at, and Masuko would give it and like edit. He would tell me like edit this, and we would just sit there, and I'd go back to the drawing board, back to the drawing board, and just really hone what are you trying to say here? And it just really has resonated throughout my life, and I appreciate that. I always want the opportunity to tell you thank you. And I know what Barry thanks you, because I do some songwriting for her. So you can thank him for any structure, all of the thought, and all of that good stuff.
You certainly would pick that up coming out of the World Stage Writers Workshop, for sure.
Yes.
Examining your soul. I think I was a little tangential because I was in the music side of it, not so much the poetry side of it. But in between the two shall meet, and so many of my favorite poets and people are still keeping the world stage alive at this very hour. And so, yeah, it's so funny that I keep trying to figure, like, I know I have to know you because we were in the same community that's a very, tight-knit sort of circle of people, but I guess our paths just never crossed in the moment.
I saw you before. When I saw your face, I always went, oh, I know that sister. I've seen her around before. Like, there's no doubt about that. We passed each other in front of Fifth Street Dicks or something at some point. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Or I saw you playing your guitar somewhere along the line. I definitely always knew she's in the arts. She's a music person. She's doing her thing. I always understood that.
Right on, right on. Well, I'm glad to finally have this conversation today with you. Thank you, Shena, and that you would know him, and that we would be in this, connection is super cool. How it always happens.
It's absolutely amazing. And I lived in Leimert Park for a while. You lived in Leimert, when I was at UCLA, I lived in Leimert Park as well, and went to Fifth Street Digs, went to Marla's Memory Lane, went to all of those places, like just really finding, my creativity. And I met, Barry, actually I met you in LA, but we connected in New York, and you and I connected in New York. So, but I just love how I really did want you two wonderful musicians to meet and talk, because I just couldn't believe you didn't know each other. So, but Masuko, you actually you have this beautiful, beautiful album out right now that I've just been listening to. Like you said, it's really just bringing me to myself. And it's the self-titled album that you have, Masuko, and you recorded this in Cape Town, Africa. Give me a little sense of what's going on with this album.
Well, I got a real lucky break. A couple of the folks that I had met in my time in California in the late 90s, early 2000s were some guys from a company called Guayaki Yerba Mate. They sell the mate out of the yellow cans. Mm-hmm. And they were, back when I met them, they were working out of a truck and selling it, on college campuses and running around. They ended up, over the last, close to 20 years, turning it into a $60 million a year business. And because they started as music lovers, we had always wanted to do something in the beginning. When they finally hit their speed, they were like, you know what, can we do something with you? And I love them. They're a very ethical company. they take a good portion of their profits and actually fund the replanting of rainforests. So they're the only company I've ever heard of with a plan to bring down the carbon footprint as part of their corporate model. So I was excited to work with them, and they basically funded me to go to Malawi. I'd been going back and forth for years because my parents are from there, and pick up a band of musicians I'd been working with there and take them to South Africa. Malawi doesn't have any real studios and so forth. It's really that the whole music industry is still trying to build. The level of talent, though, is off. It's insane.
Yeah.
So that's anywhere Africa, to be dead honest. I mean, that's anywhere you stick a bunch of black people, if you ask me, really. But we went down to Cape Town, and we got a chance to record in a really nice studio. There was a gentleman named Daryl Chanka who was part of the Guayaki Yerba Mate crew, who's actually an amazing engineer and producer, who we saw eye to eye. We're both old school band guys who like the Earth, Wind, and Fire sound. We like that Pink Floyd sound. We like that big, huge, produced in a studio behind a large old school mixer type of sound. And he helped me get it. And I'm really excited for the record because it's the first documentation I have where I got all of the elements there at the same time. And so I'm really thankful to Guayaki for having let me have that experience. And they were nutty enough to pay a lot of money to do it because they really believe in what I do.
Well, they should. Well, on that note, actually, I want to show a little clip that I believe is of the album, and just kind of a little bit about your journey making this album. So this is Masuko.
That you in the spotlight with the world watching. Do you know who you are?
Shena, can you hit me now?
That you in the spotlight.
I gotta go get my battery.
Do you know who you are?
My journey was to come to grips with my roots in Malawi, in Africa, and that journey for me, I always understood, didn't have to be pretty. It had to be done because it was the right thing to do, because, as Marcus Garvey says, a people without roots can't grow anywhere. There's no place to go. Going directly at it instead of avoiding it has allowed me to find some grace in the sense that
Yes, I love it. I love it. And he'll be right back. But Rabir, that is, from Masuko's album that you have to get because it is a complete genius. That's all I can say.
I've been listening to it ever since.
Yes, exactly. I mean, all day. And Rabir, we got a lot going on over there, don't we? I'll just do like this really fast. I'm gonna give the audience a little. So, a little brief little look.
That's the way it looks when it goes by.
So Barry's got this amazing live DVD of one of her live performances that I'm completely loving. And it's in the swag box. So if you enter to win the $100 plus swag box that's online, you'll get this CD inside along with some other stuff, probably Masuko CD and some other swag from Who's What. But so Miss WillBerryJordan.com, talk to me. How much fun was it doing some DVD making here?
Well, I think that it was a lot of fun to make it. It was a lot of work to make it. I did it all myself this time. But it was fun because the music was so good and the moment was so fun, and getting to actually relive it over and over. I don't know, for me, it was just a really great night. All of us had such a good time, and to really be immersed in that was fun. So I'm excited. Yes. And we got it done right before the plague. So I could take that wonderful experience right into quarantine.
Exactly.
Hold on to that for a second. Yeah.
And then you got a chance to work with some, I'll go back a little bit. Over your career, you've got a chance to work with some wonderful musicians. with the Dwight Tribble,
Yeah.
you were singing with, and then of course you've shared the stage with a few people. My favorites, the Les Nubians, Miss Celia, Miss Blue Nefertiti,
Yeah, yeah.
and what have you. But you've done some really great performances. You've done some radio. What is your motivation? Or like I know you've done a lot. I've done some shows with you, but what is your motivation? Because every show is different. So what brings you to the stage?
Well, okay, I think it ties back into Leimert Park. Being immersed in such a creative community of people and really wanting to emulate those that I loved. Particularly, I had a chance to spend a good deal of time with Billy Higgins and Horace Tapscott, who, as artists, were completely the example that I wanted to lead. And just so once Dwight told me to use my own voice, and it was also Matt Gibson who talked about the stage being the world for you to create for yourself, much like Masako just said earlier about how he approaches his writing. So, sometimes I think when you finally do a show and maybe it wasn't exactly what you wanted it to be or didn't come out the way you might have thought it might, you get another chance to do it again. And it's just so much fun to create. And so each time I think I just want to sort of share some other aspect of my personality, something that I've learned, almost tackling a fear. It's always about challenging my fears, really. I think at the bottom of it all or underneath it all. But I don't know, I'm just trying stuff to see what sticks and what feels the best and how the people receive it the most well, and have a good time while we have time.
Well, while you're in Connecticut, you put together a pretty nice group of musicians to perform with, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've gotten a chance to know some of the great musicians who live in this town, and I'm really close to Wesleyan University, which houses a lot of great jazz musicians that live and work on the East Coast and all over the world, actually. So I've had access to some of their great wisdom and their kindness and to play with and learn from. And so, Scott Kessel, Nat on bass, and Ron Acosta, and all the other people who get to who will want to play sometimes. It's been great. It's been really cool. And
Yeah.
a lot of them studied and love the same people that I study and love. So it's really just, 9 or 7 or 8 or 3 degrees of separation in all humanity. I say humanity specifically because some of them ain't human.
Exactly. Well, I know. Connecticut has embraced you. You're a citizen that they recognize. They've got pictures of you all over the lamp poles there, and they love you there. So it's fantastic. So I love coming up there to play with you because it's fantastic. But you've got one song in particular. I know the last time we played, we had to coin a phrase, "No dry eye," because everybody in the room was crying. So I'm just going to show a clip from this show. It's not on the DVD. It's probably on a different DVD. So Visions by Wabiri Jordan. Take a little look and a little listen. Open up your mind's eye to receive the light of the sun. While solar winds warm eternal skies, let the moon's light bathe your spirit, heal your heart,
Right in front of my eyes, in front of my eyes. Ooh, 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 I see, I see, I see, I see, I see.
Yes. But of course, Black Mariah is in the house because Meryl Jefferson, Miss J rocks on the violins. Absolutely beautiful. And yeah, that is the song, one of the favorites of everyone. And thank you so much for that, for sure. I was so glad to be a part of it. And Mr. Amasa Uko, I was just in your travels. I believe you have graced Carnegie Hall with your voice. You have graced some wonderful venues. You have graced stages with Bonnie Raitt and Mary J. Blige, Stevie Wonder. Tell us about some of your experiences. I should be calling them and asking about experiences with you because I know what it is. But yeah, tell us about some of your great stage experiences.
Well, the thing is I've always made music that tends towards trying to bring people together, and that has had a tendency to be useful within activist circles. And so, oddly enough, when I end up on a stage with a Stevie Wonder or an India RE or one of these type of folks, it generally happens because people find a common thread between what I'm saying in my music and whatever the movement might be that they're supporting. So I worked with the Stevie Wonder show was one that we did for Artists for New South Africa, which was a beautiful show. It was basically tons of artists. I mean, everybody was there. Denzel Washington's and Samuel Jackson, and everybody and their grandmother was there, and they were there really just supporting South Africa at the beginning of the new democracy. This was like 1999, and just trying to support what was happening then, and what Mandela had really pushed forward. And I guess because I was going back and forth, and they saw me as part of it. I also got lucky because Lebo Wem, who was the producer of The Lion King, had seen me and my partner Nell making money in a small club, making music in a small club in LA, and decided, you know what, you guys are great. I'm going to take you to go perform on this show with Stevie Wonder. So we went from one Friday playing in a small club full of 200 people to playing in the Wilton with like 3,000 people with Stevie Wonder the next week. So, and my life has kind of been like that. The India RE show was with Queen, and that happened because Nelson Mandela they'd liked the song Building a lot out there in South Africa. It really resonated with them. Yes. It sort of, imagine being at the beginning of the rebuilding of the country after apartheid. I didn't write the song about that, but the message seemed to fit right in with what they were doing. So Building has sort of become an anthem within the South African context and taken on its own meaning for them, which is, the beauty of what song can do sometimes. So, yeah, I feel like the music has, and this is one good thing about, trying to be an artist who says something. It's sort of when they need, at moments like this, when things get hard or when people are trying to move in a certain direction, they often find a space for your music in those times. So it's been a blessing. I try to stay true to that. It doesn't always work. Sometimes they want, Tekashi 6ix9ine or whatever it is. But for the most part, staying true to what I've done has opened some doors. I can say that.
Fantastic. I can definitely appeal to that. And speaking of your partner, Nayo, from your wonderful award-winning duo, Black Sunshine, that's his one of his other entities. But yes, Masuko, true to yourself. I can attest to that. I'm sure Verrett can amen that 3 times. I wanted to Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to also with Wabiri, talk about. I know you did a little bit of stuff in Europe and on the radio. Some of the people you've worked with, like producing, like I loved everything you did with Zam Zam. I loved everything
Mhm.
you like. Just some of the fun you've had working with some of the productions that you've been on.
Well, I guess I would mention Carlos Nino, um, who actually featured Sunflowers on one of Building Art's CDs called Love Part One, which was well received all over the world. Maybe not as much in the U.S. as one would have wanted or whatever. I don't have really any judgment except that it got me a chance to do a little tour of Europe and to see the world outside of the fishbowl of Los Angeles. And that in turn led me to meeting some, amazing musicians and producers all over the world that I've put my foot in. I guess I'd want to thank Dexter Story. I'm thinking of all my LA homies, really, Mark Maxwell, Leroy Downs, Dwight again. Yeah, it's just been really great to be supported. I got a chance I know Kamasi Washington and those cats from the West Coast Get Down for a long time. And I always knew, even way back then, that they were destined for greatness. And so to watch it manifest is so, it's almost anticlimactic to my visions because I saw it, because their music, they were tenacious, and they also studied under Billy Higgins, who was immaculate. So yeah, I just give thanks to have that seasoning as I go forward and find my space too.
On your website, you say something. What is it? Art is contributive, not competitive.
Art is
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned that, or I remember that lesson from my time working with the Pan African People's Orchestra under the direction of Horace Tapscott. And I, coming out of a classical music background, really aching for a kind of music or a kind of feeling inside the music where it was inclusive. In a classical music context, you don't necessarily feel that way. There's a lot of competition, and then you're Black, so there's a pantheon, but that's not necessarily that whole thing. So Horace taught me that, and the great voice of Ugma taught me that. The People's Orchestra, this is music of the people, and so that comes from that. That's sort of where I like to proceed from as I write or as I play. More than anything, that I like to play together. I've always been a big fan of choirs and bands and big bands because my grandparents raised me on big band music. So, and I feel more secure with my, I don't know. I just love playing with people. I like it by myself too. But the whole idea of sharing the art is what appeals to people, I think.
Lovely. Now, speaking of playing with people, in Masuko in Costa Rica, you're playing with some wonderful musicians yourself. Am I correct? Oh,
Yes. I just want to put my headphones back on here so it makes a little less noise. Yeah. Is it? You hearing me fine? Okay. Yeah. First off, I just want to say that it's kind of spooky, this conversation we're having, because all of her friends are all of my friends. Literally, Mark Maxwell. There's a song called "Watch This Woman" on my album, and he was the first person to play it on the radio. And the people like Billy Higgins, Billy was my mentor, and really, because Billy also, she probably knows that Billy played the guitar also. He played Brazilian style guitar, and he was the one who got me into João Gilberto from Brazil, because Billy always had a broad mind for music, and as a guitar player, he saw what I was doing, and I'd started off with very strong folk influence, and then he really was like, "That's cool, but you want to check out João Gilberto." And I was like, I was a kid. I was like, cool, Billy. I went and listened to George Ben. He's from Brazil. He's like, João Gilberto. Came back a few weeks later. I'm listening to Tom Zay. He's from Brazil. He just kept looking at me. Joao Gilberto. And I was like, okay, I get it. Finally went and got Joao Gilberto, and I went, oh my God, this guy's an orchestra with his fingers. I mean, it totally changed the possibilities for me as a guitar player. And just growing up, because I grew up in LA, that's something that people don't know about me because I travel a lot, but growing up and seeing the Pan-African People's Orchestra and just seeing what Horace Tapscott was bringing to the community, seeing him play all the time and understanding his stance as a musician, because Horace Tapscott has really chosen to stay in the LA community and not move out into the world and seek the fame. I heard at a certain point he was asked to play with Coltrane, all these other people. He really wanted to make sure the LA community had a certain relationship to music. And so it is fascinating to hear what Betty talk about these folks, because Carlos Nino also, he was the person who put me on stage with Gil Scott-Heron and Prince Paul, and was very supportive of my music. He was actually at my CD release party in October. And so, just to say that I think it's really important for folks to understand there's a lot of phenomenal music and energy that comes out of the LA scene. And it may even move into the world, and people won't necessarily know where certain things started. Right. She can probably say half the rappers I hear today sound like somebody from Project Load 10 years ago. The underground LA scene, all that melodic rapping that you're hearing now that everybody's doing with a melody.
Or even the Good Life, or the Good Life Cafe. Let's talk about Ava DuVernay come through.
Exactly. Ava DuVernay comes right out of there, was a dope MC. People don't know that. She was a dope MC. And I don't mean like she was just all right. I mean, she was like superior MC.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's just I'm really happy when I also run into other musicians who have that root and understand that root, because I think it really does, it does create a different understanding of music. Now, getting to Costa Rica, like Wabedi, coming from people like Horace and Billy, it's like I was taught that those words ring in my head. I've said that within the last few months to people, saying music is, it's contributive, it's not competitive. So out here, I'm working with a lot of musicians. I'm working with hip hop artists. I'm working with Cuban jazz musicians. I'm getting the Cuban jazz musicians to think more about the hip hop, and the hip hop musicians to think more about the Cuban jazz. It's like that melding is an LA thing, and it's something that I've taken with me everywhere, because it always threw people off in Africa. It's throwing people off here in Costa Rica. Like they're always like, "But you're a real musician and you respect hip hop." I'm like, yeah, I grew up in LA where like AC alone was jamming with Horace Tapscott. Like that's a normal understanding of reality to me. People are always blown away to find out jazz and hip hop, it's a lineage, it's something, it's a tradition.
And
all of that can be it's a language. So taking that, I think that's that most valuable asset as a musician, is when I land somewhere, because I've always understood those as one trajectory, I'm able to get involved in many levels of the community. And I really appreciate LA as my root for giving me that.
I agree with that too. That's something I think I learned too from someone in Leimert Park talking about moving around the world, but being from Los Angeles and specifically rooted in Leimert Park would be sort of a calling card that you could use anywhere. It commanded a lot of respect. And I think they told me that before I had ever left the country. And so I find that it's true. I haven't been everywhere in the world, but I come through that sort of vortex on the planet is valuable, I think, for some when it comes to understanding what this art is about, or something about, as you were speaking, I was just thinking about the way this whole country was built and how California tends to be the furthest west one can go on the contiguous, continent, and how it was sort of a revolution of minds and everything, of people moving west as they come. I'm on the East Coast now. It's a very different sort of a mindset between the two people. Same issues, but this is New England proper. This is Old England, and then plop, here they got here, and they moved west. Well, people moved west to be more open-minded and to have more freedom. You have more space, your streets are wider, your house, all the things, it grew bigger. And even with the art, you know, and then in that particular little spot right there in the inner city, I always thought it was a vortex. I used to sit in the park around sunset, and if you're looking up Valley Ridge or whatever that is going west, when the sun hits, there's a particular energy that happens right there where they're usually playing drums.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And they play drums out there, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the drum circle. And speaking of energy, I'm like getting chills right now. I cannot wait till the outdoors open up to get all of this energy in one room. We all have to meet at the world stage or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
That would be awesome. Speaking of world stage, give a shout out. We'll say hello to Renee out over there at the world stage.
Hey, Renee.
And then I can say hello to Renee LaSalle here. She's saying hello to you, Barry.
Hey.
I know. I mean, we're gonna have to do this again because I definitely have to catch up with Masauko. And this is actually a master's class for some people right now that need to hear a lot of what you guys are saying and need to kind of feel the vibes that you guys are giving to us today. So thank you so much for bringing that to Georgia, to Savannah, to the world, to everyone, because it's very necessary.
We all need it. I need it.
to happen.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, yes, and I just want everyone to know, go to Masauko.com. You can get his CD, self-titled. It's actually, I believe it's dedicated to your father, which is beautiful. You definitely have to hear his music all, as what Barry would say, hear his music all. And look forward to hopefully some more videos coming out on that. And WaberryJordan.com. Well, you'll be able to get your very own DVD of her performing and
from my
two on tour stuff. Two on tour stuff. So I have to bring you back because I didn't even really get into that because it's all about you today. But two on tour, Black Mariah's, all that good stuff. No, that's stuff. They have to go to the website to get more. To get more people.
More info, more stuff, more music.
Yes. And I'm not mad. Today I went over my time. I'm not mad because I didn't want, this is what the time is for. Thank y'all so much for coming. I usually do, before I leave though, I ask each guest to give me 3 words to give to the world. So anything you want to say. So Barry, what are your 3 words?
Justice for all.
Yes.
Justice for all.
Yes. Masauko. 3 words. I was thinking.
Peace of mind.
Yes. Yes.
I'll take it.
You see all of the information. You can find him on Instagram. You can find him on Facebook. You can go to the website, and hopefully someday soon I will have him back on the show, and I will let you know where the liveness is happening when live happens. I'm going to leave with one thing, and we're going to play a little video. So don't you guys go anywhere because this is what we're ending it. We're going to end it with some Black Mariah's, some 2 on tour, some Barry Jordan, and this is from her DVD.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Who's Who, the What's What, Masauko, Barry.
Shena. Thank you, Shena.
Yes.
Don't hang up just yet. Okay.
All right.
You can keep seeing dreams.